Hi Rockstars, I'm Aly, your Rockstar Bar Girl, and welcome to the Rockstar Bar Girl Tip of the Week.
I'm a rock star. Every day I rock hard. I'm a motherfucking rock star. Every day I rock hard. I'm a rock
You
star.
guys are joining me on a rainy day. I love rainy days. I wanted to come and give you guys some tips on how to best start and end your shift. Bartending shifts are very, very long and they can be very, very stressful. And for me, starting them off successfully and finishing them off strong really can help to minimize just the general craziness and exhaustion of getting through a shift. So my first tip is to arrive 15 minutes early for your shift. I know that can seem kind of like common sense. Someone said that in one of my posts. That the tips are common sense. But honestly, if I didn't see people fail to do this so much, then I wouldn't put it out there as something to encourage you to do. But as a bar manager, too often my bartenders are either right on time or even worse, they're late. And doing that really increases the chances that your shift is going to get off to a bad start and kind of set the tone for the rest of your shift, just not going as smoothly as possible. If you are the opener, if you have a lot to do, you might want to build that extra 15 minutes into there as well. That's kind of up to you. It's not as necessary. But if you are the swing bartender, you're coming in after somebody has already opened the bar, or you're the closer, then you definitely want to be 15 minutes early. So what are you doing in that 15 minutes? That 15 minutes is not for dicking around, okay? Don't spend that time chatting with your fellow coworkers or spend the entire 15 minutes changing into your uniform or things of that nature. If you need to change into your uniform, if you need to grab a bite to eat, if you need to do things like that before getting behind the bar, then do it, but try not to dedicate that entire amount of time to that task, because you want to spend some of that 15 minutes actually behind the bar. So what I like to do is I'll get to work about 15 minutes early. I'll take about 10 minutes to settle in. But 5 minutes before I'm expected to be behind the bar, I go behind the bar. I just walk behind the bar, say what's up to my fellow bartenders, and take an assessment of what has happened and what's going on. Now, ideally, the person who opened before you, or who is transitioning out of the bar, has already begun the process of turning the bar over to you. The process of turning over the bar to the next bartender should look kind of similar to what it looks like when you're closing. You're restocking things, replenishing garnishes, refilling caddies, you're getting new ice and refilling anything you've seriously depleted, and things like that, and kind of just setting up the next bartender for success. So ideally, this has already been happening. And when you get behind the bar is essentially reset to the way it would have looked when the bar opened. But in the real world, obviously things happen, shifts get busy, sometimes they're understaffed, or your fellow bartender just isn't very good at managing their time or keeping a tidy bar. You want to know a few minutes before you're expected to be behind the bar if the opening bartender never got around to cutting fruit. That's huge. Garnish is probably out or running out. That's going to be a real problem for your shift, make your shift way more stressful than it needs to be. So I'm going to spend those 5 minutes running downstairs to the fridge to grab lemons and limes and oranges, grab a cutting board and a knife and a pair of gloves, and get myself ready to, at the very least, be able to cut some fruit on the fly if I don't have time to just start cutting. Or if you and the bartender you're working with are overlapping, grabbing that stuff will allow you to work on fruit while they keep serving guests, or vice versa. You can switch over and start taking over the main responsibilities of serving the guests, and that person can start cutting fruit and doing whatever other backup things they weren't able to do for you during the shift. So that 15 minutes can really set you up for success. And my next tip is all about the close up. Closing up the bar can be a really stressful process, particularly on busy nights, and particularly if you are new at that bar or restaurant. It is very, very frustrating to get to the end of your shift and realize that you have a good 30, 45 minutes, an hour of cleaning, restocking, and breaking down of the bar. It's just like depressing to your soul. Like when you get done with a shift, you have expended a lot of energy. And so when you get to the end of it, if the lights come up and you look around and you've got tons of work to do, and you can't just leave and go home or go to the bar next door or whatever it is you're planning to do, it can be really frustrating. It's a really good idea to develop a system to help you make sure that you can break down the bar and clean up the bar kind of slowly as you approach closing, in a way that doesn't leave you with too much to do after the bar has officially closed, but that at the same time has actually been thorough and a good job. You're walking a fine line when you are breaking down the bar. You don't want to start breaking things down so much that you make the bar look like it's closed. You also want to keep in mind that if the bar is open, you are still using things. So there will be some things that just won't make sense to clean or break down, hours before you close, because you're inevitably going to dirty them again. So my first approach is I would encourage you to start breaking down and cleaning the bar 2 hours before you close. I know that sounds like a lot. 2 hours, what? What I mean by that is the 2-hour mark is when you want to start making an assessment of how you're going to go about your close and start preparing yourself for that process. So at the 2-hour mark is where I would go and get the cleaner, gloves, rags, etc. that I might need for cleaning that perhaps are not behind the bar. I'll grab those things and stash them away. I might go to the kitchen and get quart containers, lemons, and limes to start the process of cutting backup fruit for the night, if cutting backup fruit for the next day is a part of my cleanup and bar closing responsibilities. If it is the evening, it's late at night, which it probably is because we're closing, I'm going to dump any coffee or tea and clean out the coffee and tea machines, because it's now 10 o'clock at night and I am probably not going to need these things. Things like that, things that are kind of preparatory or that are just completely not relevant for the shift that you are working, or for what is likely to happen in the last couple of hours. Go grab the plastic wrap from the kitchen, or grab the nipples and the spouts that you're going to use to plug everything up. So the 2-hour mark is when you should start turning your attention to the breakdown process. Hi, kitty. Hi. You came to be nosy? Say hi to the people. Hi, Rockstars. I'm Eartha Kitty. Okay, so back to what we're talking about. We're talking about closing up. So at this point, it is typical for most bars and restaurants to experience the kitchen closing. Typically, the kitchen closes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours before the bar does. At any point when either there are no more servers or the kitchen has closed, you want to turn your attention to completely breaking down and cleaning the service station. The service station is the area of the bar where the servers come to pick up their drinks. There are usually garnish trays, caddies, and things like that there for them so that they can garnish their drinks. They can put straws and grab napkins and all that stuff in one centralized location near the bar. It's also where you, the bartender, are going to place the drinks that you finished with so that they can pick them up. So that area is called the service station. Once you no longer have servers, or the kitchen is closed and there's no more food service, which usually means servers are being cut, then you can break that station down. You will probably also have garnish trays, caddies, and all of those things set up at the bar for your use. So if you do need to continue to provide drinks for servers at the service bar, you can do so with the materials at the bar. But the idea is to not have two full stations operating now that we're getting closer to closing, especially if we don't need it because we don't have any more servers. So break down that area. You're going to throw away your garnishes and clean the tools and utensils over there by running them through the dishwasher. And then you can set those tools to the side to dry and be used and pulled out the next day. But now the service station is done. This is also a good opportunity for you to start washing any of those tools behind the bar that you are not going to need. So at this point, what I like to do is I kind of like to not break the bar down, but kind of minimize it. So we've gotten rid of the service station, which has a lot of the same stuff as what's on the drink making station behind the bar. So if I can get rid of some of my mats and leave just one or two that I need for building drinks, if I can get rid of some of my shakers and just leave one or two that I need for building drinks, if I can get rid of some of my strainers and just leave one or two. So any of those tools that are similar to what's at the service station that you also don't need, you should start running those through the dishwasher now. At this point, we should be at about the 1 hour mark. And at the 1 hour mark is when you want to take care of any restocking that needs to be done. You can't put away or clean too much of the stuff that's behind the bar, the service station, the coffee machine stuff, that was over to the side. But the stuff that's behind the bar, you can't really do too much with right now because with a whole hour left to go, that's just a little bit too early. You probably still have guests either sitting at the bar or coming up to the bar. So we're gonna take a break from the putting of things away and the cleaning of things, and we're gonna restock. Because restocking is something that kind of happens behind the bar and shouldn't really interfere with anything going on with guests or things like that. So if you have a bar back, this would be your time to give your bar back a list of the things that they need to bring up behind the bar. This is also your opportunity to give the manager a liquor list. If the bar back or you don't have access to the liquor room, if the liquor room is locked, then this is a good time to give the manager, because an hour before closing, the manager is also in breakdown mode. So this would be the perfect time to give them a list of any bottles of liquor that they need to go and get from the locked liquor room. Your dishwasher should be on a constant rotation. So remember, we started washing all of the tools that were no longer in use at the service station, and we also started washing those similar tools that were located behind the bar for us that we are no longer using. But you don't want to get to the end of the shift, have the bar close, and look over the dishwasher and see piles of glassware. Keep an eye on the dishwasher and make sure that every time a cycle ends, you take everything out of it, you put those things to the side to dry, and then you refill that dishwasher with more stuff. Because I promise you there will be more stuff. So refill it again, run it again, and just keep that process going as you work on restocking the bar. So now at this point, we should be at, let's say, about the 30 minutes to close mark, 20 minutes to close mark. This is when it's okay to start throwing away garnishes that you haven't used in a while and are unlikely to use, to start throwing away any fruit or herbs that have been out, to start refilling and wrapping or storing any fruit juices or purees that were maybe out on the well for easy access. This is when I would start wiping all those bottles down, wrapping them up or covering them with nipples or however your bar wants you to properly cover those things. Remember to label and date everything, and start sticking those things in the refrigerator. If somebody orders a drink with those ingredients, it's not going to be too much trouble for me to go to the fridge, unwrap it, use it, and wrap it back up. So now is the time to start putting all of those fresh produce, fresh juices, purees, syrups, things that you had pulled out of the fridge for easy access, now's the time to wipe those things down, start wrapping them up, and start putting them away. By the time you're done with that, you should be at about 15 minutes to closing. And traditionally, 15 minutes to closing is when we give last call. So this is when you would go around to all of the guests at your bar, let them know that the bar is going to be closing soon, and if they would like to order anything else, they need to do so with you now. Once you've spoken with everyone and given them the opportunity to place any last minute orders, then you want to go ahead and take care of those last minute orders. That is really important because you're not trying to rush anybody, but you are trying to get out of there. So the longer it takes you to get everybody their last drink, the longer it's going to take for them to finish that drink. So as soon as you get those orders, whatever restocking, cleaning, and all of that you were doing, that stops, and you get everybody their last orders taken care of. This would also be a good time to drop their check. It is last call. Now that you have given them their last drink, there is not going to be anything else that you're going to be serving them. So it wouldn't be impolite to, along with that last drink, also give them their bill. So you will probably have some tabs to close up at this point as well. If you don't, though, then you can return to your cleaning and restocking. And this would be a good time for you to now cover or plug anything that needs to be covered or plugged because you can be certain that you aren't going to need it. So you can start putting the nibbles onto the bottles on the back bar because you can be certain that you're not going to need those. If there is anything that needs to be covered with plastic wrap, you can do that now. You're not going to be pouring anything anymore. If there are beer taps at your bar, this would be the perfect time to clean them down thoroughly and plug them up with their clean plugs because you're not going to be pouring any more beers. So you don't want to do that stuff before last call, as the last thing you want to do is clean the beer taps with chemicals and plug them up and then have someone ask for a beer. It would not be a good idea to serve them a beer right after doing that. And you might lose that sale. So once you've given last call and you're sure you're not going to be pouring anything anymore, basically, you can be 100% sure that you can cover all that stuff up. At this point now, the bar is closed, okay? Lights are going to be coming up and your guests are going to start wrapping up their drinks, finishing off with signing any receipts for their credit cards or closing out any last minute transactions. And within about 15 minutes of closing or so, you should expect, for the most part, to be alone at the bar. Once the lights have come up and the bar is closed, everything is fair game. Some bars are really lenient and they'll let customers kind of linger around for a while. Sometimes you'll have regulars that live in the neighborhood and just typically don't leave right away, and maybe you're okay with that. Oftentimes there's a reason why some people are hanging around in the bar after you are closed. But once it is closed, we've officially reached closing time, the lights are up, no more worrying about your impressions of the bar. Now the chemicals come out, the sandy water gets refreshed, the rags come out, now I'm wiping everything down, I'm cleaning down the bar. And if you're still there, again, not being rude or anything, but if you're still there, then you're kind of just still there, right? It's cleanup time for sure. But the great news is, because you already broke down the coffee station, you already broke down and thoroughly cleaned the service station, you already got a jump start on cleaning any mats, shakers, or tools that were not in use for the last few hours. Because you already got a jump start on restocking the bar with beer and liquor that is needed for the next day. Because you've been taking care of your glassware and making sure that your dishwasher is constantly running and you don't have a pile up of dirty dishes. And because you closed out everybody's tabs when you served them their last drink, at this point, the only things left to do are to burn your ice, to cover up, put away, or break down just the items that were in your immediate vicinity for making those last few drinks, and to thoroughly wipe down with a clean, warm, soapy, wet rag all of your surfaces, the tops of your bars, the tops of your tower, the back bar, all of that stuff, the front of your refrigerators, the tops of your low boys, etc. You give the whole place a great wipe down, and now it's 30 minutes after closing and you're done. You're ready to sit down and get to the fun part, which is counting your tips. It took me a while to get into that flow, and there have been days where I have found myself with like an hour and a half of work to do after the bar closes, and it's miserable. So even if you're super busy, even if you're not super busy and there isn't much to close or much to clean, to break down, at the 2-hour mark, either way, just give yourself a check-in and start preparing yourself for the breakdown process. And either way, you're going to find yourself with a nice and smooth breakdown and not much to do after the bar closes. So I really hope that you guys employ this strategy and that you find it helpful. If it does help you, I definitely want to hear about it, so please leave me a comment below, or if you want to offer advice on how you open and start your shifts to keep them as stress-free as possible, leave that down below. I'd be curious to see what other bartenders are doing as well. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up. Make sure, of course, to subscribe, and click the bell button so you get notified when the next video comes out. Follow me on Instagram at rockstar_bargirl, and please go check out my website, therockstarbargirl.com. There is so much happening over there. I'm offering bar tools, free videos, and a full online course, and I would love it if you checked it out. So come say hi to me on therockstarbargirl.com, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye, Rockstar.
Rockstar.